Hello, Barbara Nixon here, and welcome to another episode of Lessons from Leaders. Now, today's conversation with a leader is with Maggie Giele. Now, I am super excited to introduce Maggie to you. She's an award-winning business and marketing strategist and a certified coach, and she's all about helping fiercely dedicated business owners slay strategies and scale businesses. She's also the founder of Bosses in Europe, which is an online community for entrepreneurs in Europe to connect and to collaborate and host international events. Maggie was born in Prague, grew up in the US and Singapore, and now lives in Amsterdam with her husband and her Aussie doodle pup, Frodo. This conversation is full of gems. You're going to love it. So please grab yourself a notepad and a pen and settle down and let's dive in. Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing? You having a good day?
Good. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So today, obviously, we're talking about your journey into leadership and all the bumps and curves along the way. So can you, just to kick us off, can you tell us a bit more about how you got to where you are today and what you're doing now?
Sure. I am a business and marketing strategist. I have some cool things under my belt, like an award, and I'm a certified coach as well. And I've got a master's of science and marketing strategy and all these fun things. I also run a Facebook community called Bosses in Europe, which is to connect Europe and UK-based entrepreneurs together for community and collaboration and general camaraderie and support. My business is a bit varied. I do a lot of one-on-one things, supporting clients in intensives or longer-term coaching strategy relationships, running masterminds, live events, and all these fun things. What I do is essentially I help business owners grow with ease. So anything to do with how can you get to your goals, make the money that affords the lifestyle flexibility that you want and the freedom that comes along with that, but in a way that feels good to you while still remaining strategic and helping your clients and customers and helping yourself and your family.
Fantastic. So interesting. So how did you get to that place? What's your background?
I grew up in Singapore in the US, and when I was 20, I thought it would be a great idea to buy a one-way ticket to Amsterdam because I was a bit sick of living in Singapore. Wanted to change, bought that one-way ticket, transferred my university to Amsterdam, and 10 months later, I went on a coffee date, and we've been married for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So that was about 8-9 years ago. After I finished my master's, literally 2 weeks later, we moved to Frankfurt, Germany, due to my fiance at the time, his work. New culture, new language, new country. Frankfurt is the financial capital of Europe. I have a marketing degree at a time when economic recession was happening. Everyone and their dog was getting a marketing degree when they didn't know what to do. I didn't get a single interview in 6 months living in Frankfurt, which was like completely confidence crushing because I thought I was this special butterfly who spoke all these languages and all this experience and nothing. I started learning how to code websites because I wanted like a hard skill to, for companies to hire me. That led me to discovering the world of the online business with SEO and Pinterest and courses. And I started 2 blogs that didn't work, but I then realized, so I started getting clients hiring me for web design. I was terrible. It was this was like all in about a 9-month phase. So they were hiring me for web design, and I realized that I had been basically unintentionally upselling them to hiring me for marketing strategy. And I saw the results. So I had people hitting the highest month in revenue of the year, like the month after we started working together, or doubling their email list or things like that. And I was like, oh my, wow, I could actually do this. I don't think I would have ever had the confidence to start and be like, oh my gosh, I'm like a marketing consultant. But I saw the proof and decided to, get rid of the coding, which I absolutely hated, and start just doing marketing. And that expanded to business and marketing because my bachelor's is in international business. And it's, for me, business and marketing, they go hand in hand. I can't create you a marketing plan or co-create that with you if you don't have a good business model, if you don't know who you're actually reaching, if your pricing is off. So I always really start with business strategy, because I want to help you make more money, again, in a way that feels good, and then help you get in front of the right people who are happy to pay that. So that's the business and the marketing sides together.
Fantastic. I love the fact that you tried lots of different things, but also, and by pure accident, you started upselling people, but you really zoned into your zone of genius, didn't you?
Yeah.
And that's where the magic happens. So how did that feel once it kind of clicked into place?
It felt good, but I had like a big pitfall in this process about, I want to say, a year after. And that's when I had a burnout.
Right.
So I had decided to do this marketing thing, but I was really stuck in this old school MSc, like my master's mindset. I was doing like these reports for my clients that no one even read, and I hated doing them. It took me like 2 full weeks to make one. So if anyone's listening and you're actually doing something that you don't like doing and your clients aren't specifically asking for, you may wish to like reconsider including that, because I stopped doing them and no one said anything. And I wasn't confident in my own ability as a human being. I thought I had to follow all these online gurus because, yes, I understood marketing theory from my university, but I didn't understand, I thought I didn't understand online business, and that they all knew this magic thing I didn't know. So I was trying to follow all this advice, and it got to a point where I was waking up at 2 a.m. to check Facebook and reply to people. Because I thought, if you to be successful, you have to give value in Facebook groups, and you have to try. I was so desperate to be blogging, to be creating content, but it never felt right. And I got stuck in this huge perfectionism cycle. At one point I had 55 unpublished blog posts that they were almost done. And I always got to a point of they're not really good enough. I'm just going to start something else now. And I ended up in the hospital, 5 hours emergency room tests, and there was nothing physically wrong with me. And they said it's stress. It's this is such bullshit. I'm not stressed. I'm just busy. But it took me a good 4 months before I could go for a short walk without feeling dizzy and clutching a wall. And that was to me, honestly, that was the turning point for my business. When I set myself a deadline, by the end of the year, I want to see some kind of evidence that this thing can be successful. I do not want to go to 9 to 5. I love being creative. I love experimenting, but not in the way I've been doing. And 9 months after I was in the emergency room, diagnosed with stress and burnout, I was booked out for the first time, and it felt good.
Amazing. So this is such a powerful lesson for so many people. We push ourselves to the limits, and your limit was actually, you ended up in the emergency room. It actually got that bad. So what did you recognize any signs before you got there, or did it just happen? Looking back, were there any symptoms or triggers that you think, actually I should have spotted that?
Yeah, there were many, many, many signs and symptoms. I just ignored them. And it's something I still struggle with today. I have to be cautious of my boundaries. I'm definitely a wannabe overachiever. I want to do all things right now at the same time perfectly. I was getting dizzy. That was the first sign. A few weeks before my hospital escapade, I was getting dizzy. My brain wouldn't stop, and I was obsessed with my phone. I was checking, refreshing Facebook or email every 2 minutes, even if it was 8 p.m. and I was watching a movie. So I've set a lot of things in place. And like I said, it's something I still struggle with. I don't think I'm ever going to I think it's part of my personality, and I need to be careful about protecting my own boundaries, my own energy. So I have things built in place now. I no longer work weekends. I very, very rarely work after 6 p.m. at night, unless there's a launch or I've messed up my timeline and I have to catch up or something, but it doesn't happen too often. And I really started investing in my team.
Yes.
Pretty early on, because I realized, I could theoretically do all these things myself, but in my bigger priority of life, I would rather do things I enjoy or in work, or go for a walk with my dog in the forest, or go hang out with my husband and have a drink somewhere than be tied, chained to my desk.
Yes, yes. I love the fact that you said I could do this myself. And I hear it so often from the people that I work with. It's quicker if I do it myself. I'm not delegating or outsourcing because it's quicker if I do it by myself. By the time I have shown somebody else to do this, I could have done it.
Mm-hmm. Which is true. That is true. But if you count up all the times that you keep doing it for yourself, then in the long run, after probably 3 times, it already would have made more sense to just, like one tip I love using is use Loom. It's like a little app for when you can record videos on of your computer screen. So the next time you're doing that thing that it's faster for you to do it yourself, use something like use Loom, record yourself, your screen while you're doing the task, talk through it, and then send that video to someone and they can do it exactly according to your method.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Yes. And then it's done. And then it's off your to-do list forever.
Yes. I think it's a huge thing about like stepping up as a leader is learning how to delegate, like letting someone else access my email inbox probably took me a good year of working with that person before I said, okay, you may start replying to emails on my behalf. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a control thing, but it was also a big trust thing. And we've made it work. It was like, okay, first, please start taking care of anyone who's, any payment issues, then my system was taking care of them. Then, okay, any scheduling things, okay, you can start doing that. Just things like that I was like, I don't need to be the one scheduling clients into my own calendar. Like she has access, she can do it.
It's done. Absolutely. Now, one of my key messages is in order to lead everybody else, in order to be able to lead in your arena, in your space, you have to first be able to lead yourself. So you talked about battling perfectionism and being an overachiever. How do you do that on a day-to-day basis now, even though, and still have your boundaries?
That's such a great question. It's definitely an ongoing battle for me, but I think it comes to really knowing yourself, like your own personality, your strengths and weaknesses. One of my weaknesses is definitely the perfectionism. One of the ways I contain it is I set myself external, hard, and short deadlines. If I give myself 3 months to create a course, it will take me 3 months. If I give myself to the end of the week, I will get it done. I'm not really great with self-set deadlines. And that was actually one of the big reasons I decided to hire an assistant in the first place. I was like, I need someone else I am paying to hold me accountable. Someone I am a tiny bit scared of. That, I have this little sense of I may get into trouble or I may make her mad, which is like obviously never happened. But that I have that respect for that person and therefore the respect for the deadline. And this may not be the greatest CEO leadership way of looking at things, but it is what works for me.
And I think that is, a great thing to have in place, because it's about having somebody accountable, isn't it? Somebody else, in order for somebody else to do a job and not wait for you, you have to do something first, Mm-hmm. So it makes perfect sense.
And I feel bad. If I'm the bottleneck of my team, I feel really bad, which means me to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. And, that's with like getting to the 55 unpublished blog posts, like that was because I didn't have any accountability. And I am the kind of person that I can be very self-motivated. Like when I'm inspired, I have created so much content after sitting down for 20 minutes after conversation, but I get stuck in the editing phase of making it like quote unquote good enough to publish. Mm-hmm. And one way of battling that is, again, having someone come in, do the editing part for me, because it takes them like a third of the time it would take me. And I can do the final review of like, yes, I'm happy with this. And this is how I finally started being able to publish content again and getting over this block.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you've done, Maggie, is you've defined what your strengths are. You've defined that, and you've taken out the parts that you actually, that hold you back, all your blocks.
Absolutely. Like I grew up in Singapore, and a big part of that is like you shouldn't have any weaknesses. And I think that's part of our culture in general. Like you should always work on your weaknesses. I'm actually listening to Chillpreneur from Denise Duffield Thomas, and she talks about that.
Yeah.
It's so good. I've honestly, she's definitely been way too woo for me and I got to like page 30 of Get Rich Lucky Bitch, and I had to put it down because I couldn't deal with it. I am like, this book is just so amazing. It so speaks to
I was saying that because I think this is her best book, because I've listened to it on audio. I've actually bought the paper copy so that I can go through and make notes. But yeah, she's on point this time.
Yes, it's very with like how I would like to approach business and life in general. And part of that has been, and some people don't get it. I've had, you know, heated conversations with a friend who's not in business about this, with who didn't understand why I would pay someone to delegate my weaknesses to when I could, you know, do a course and then improve my weaknesses and do it myself. But like, it just feels too hard. Like time management, project management, really detail-oriented work has never been my strength. Creative work, ideas, connecting the dots, seeing the big picture, that is a strength. Like, that's why I'm good as a strategist, as a coach, as someone who does live events and runs masterminds and helps people connect the dots. I would so much rather spend my time and energy focusing on those things than scheduling.
Absolutely. And prioritizing your downtime. You know, you don't have to be working full pelt all the time. You going for a walk in the forest with your dog is still time well spent.
Yeah. That's something I'm still
Are you struggling?
Training myself to accept that it's okay. It's definitely gotten better because actually before I got my dog, there were definitely phases that I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks.
Right.
Because I didn't need to. I didn't go work from a cafe because I felt bad about spending the €3 for a cup of coffee when, oh, I should be making money. It was actually the support of my husband who I think at one point he physically like made me leave the house to work from outside because I was getting to this totally depressive social anxiety state. This was actually before the burnout, so it was quite a few years ago. But looking at investing, not for the sake of investing. I don't believe in the mantra on face value of you have to invest in yourself or others to invest in you. But investing in things that make your life and business easier.
Definitely.
And if I spend an extra $5 or whatever, and I work from a cafe because I love that energy, and that's where I get most of my creative work done, then yes, that is a good investment of my money to pay for that coffee.
Absolutely. Yes. And I also, I'll change easier. I agree with that, making your life easier, but also making your life just happier. You know, I strive for happiness every single day. So whether that's in my work or just the way that I work or the people that I work with, you know, happiness is the ultimate goal for me. So I put in rules throughout my day that I have to do in order to make me, you know, as happy as I can be.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So and taking a walk out is one of those rules, and I tick it off, and I'm, you know, feeling great. And when I'm feeling great stuff happens.
Yeah, and I think this is a trend in our industry now, which I'm so happy to see more of, that it's less hustle and grind and, you know, crush it. And it's a lot more ease and flow. And yet again, it's within a framework of being strategic and making money and serving clients and customers, because at the end of the day, we're not running charities here. We're running businesses.
We are. But it's also making that decision, you know. So a lot of the people listening to this may not be running their own businesses. They may be, you know, still working 9 to 5, and that, you know, which is fantastic. So it's about making that conscious decision that it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to run yourself into the ground. You don't have to work all hours in order to be successful.
Absolutely. And there's just so many people who in entrepreneurship or in the corporate world who I know who have had burnouts.
Yes.
And some a lot worse than mine.
Yes.
You know, it took me 4 months to recover, but for some people it takes years before they can start doing, you know, coming back to whatever they want to be doing. And I think it's such a dangerous perspective in our culture and society. And, you know, growing up in Asia, it's definitely worse, but you still see it in the US and the UK and Europe, and this culture of not being able to take time off, because if you're taking time off, you're wasting time. Whereas like literally from a productivity perspective, if I do take that hour to go to the forest and walk with my dog, and I'm not listening to podcasts, I'm not being productive or anything, my brain has space and time to connect dots, and I can come back feeling energetic and refreshed and with new ideas. It's like when you get new ideas in the shower. There's a reason for that, because like your brain connects your subconscious dots.
Definitely. And that again is a really powerful takeaway right there. And when we're just not, our brain's just not built for constant overload, you know, and we're doing it so much at the moment, you know, we're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and not stopping until, you know, we go to bed, and the only time that we switch off is when we're asleep. It's no wonder that the only downtime we have is in the shower, and that's when we're getting these brain waves.
Yeah.
The one thing that I say is our brain needs time to do admin. It's got to do its admin. It's got to put stuff away and do the chores and all the housework in there. So give it time.
I love that analogy. Like one simple change I started making a few months ago, which has helped me with this, because I'm not great at naturally taking downtime. I like working. I used to watch Netflix during my lunch break.
Yeah.
I would, get off my computer with my calls in my Facebook group or whatever. I would make a bit of lunch. While making lunch, it would always be like Friends or Mad Men or something like that, like, or Parks and Rec. But I watched that while eating lunch and watched like another episode. So it'll be probably an hour, and then I'll go back to my computer. And it took me a long time, but then I realized, but I am constantly almost overstimulating my brain. Because I was thinking, I've had an hour for lunch, which is like longer than a lot of people take. I don't feel rested. So now I don't switch on the TV at all during lunch. I read a book. I actually look forward to my lunch breaks with my book. I'm currently reading, and it's not going to be a business book. I'm currently rereading The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, which is this epic fantasy magic, amazing thing. It's a very good series. And I go for a walk with Frodo, my dog. So
I do the same. I go for a walk every single day without fail in the woods, because I find trees and views connect me and ground me. So I make sure that I do that every single day. But even if you're not able to, just having some fresh air and doing something different in your break is so important. So let's do something a little bit different. Let's have a bit of a quick fire round, Maggie, because we've talked a lot.
Uh-oh.
I know, right? So famous.
Should I be nervous?
No. Let's have a look. What do you normally have for breakfast?
Today, nothing. I've decided I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. So it's 11 o'clock. I'm not hungry. I will probably have a green smoothie after this interview.
Cool. How's
and
that
then lunch an hour later.
Have you been doing that long?
I have actually, yeah, probably a year. So I've had, after my burnout, I ended up having 3 surgeries, and I was working with a nutritionist after one of them, just like trying to figure out like how can I make myself feel better physically, like what's within my control. And part of that was also like, I really don't enjoy eating breakfast. I'm just not hungry when I wake up. And at a certain point, I was just like, why do I? And the thing is, like, if I eat breakfast when I wake up, which is like 8:30, by 10:30, I am absolutely starving. So, yeah. Long story to quick fire answer. I just realized I'm just gonna eat when I'm hungry. Part of that is like with lunch is really important to me, because I can very, very easily work through lunch and then not eat until 3 or 4. So that is something really important to me, that needs to be prepped. That should not require any thinking on my part.
I like that. So prepping your lunch, when do you do that?
So my go-to is store-bought falafel, like from chickpeas, which is fairly healthy, and beetroot with a bit of cheese. Like beetroot, it just keeps me really full. I really like it. I put some coriander or pepper or feta or something over it, and some hummus on the side or something, and that takes me like 2 minutes to throw together. And those are ingredients I know I will always have at home.
Awesome. Love it. You're making me hungry. I could eat that now.
A bit of avocados in there as well, a bit of lime, but the base is almost always the same.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. The reason I like it is because I'm always skipping lunch. I get busy but I do the eat when I'm hungry thing, and I've not actually consciously realized that I'm doing it. So yeah, maybe I just don't need lunch. Maybe that's all right for me.
Yeah, I don't really need breakfast a lot. I eat breakfast with my husband on the weekends, and we have like, eggs and bread and kind of thing. But for myself, sometimes I make a green smoothie, and I have that prepped in the freezer. So again, once every few weeks, I just put it back to the like cut up the ingredients, and put it in the freezer. So that again, I just put it in like in a NutriBullet blender thing, and it takes me like 20 seconds and zero thinking to do it. Because if you require me to think in the morning, it's not going to happen. And for lunch, the reason is that that's kind of between like 10 and 1, 2 is when I have a really great phase of creative energy and I can do a lot of stuff, which means it's really easy for me to run over, and I need something that's not going to require me time to think or to do anything long.
Love that. I really love that. So you mentioned that between 2 and 3, or say about when you have your creative energy?
Like 10 and 1.
10 and 1. Mm-hmm. So are you really self-aware in terms of when your energy levels spike and when you have your dips?
Yeah, but again, I think it's because of the health stuff that's happened that I started getting really aware of what makes me feel good, what makes me feel less good. How do I have endometriosis, and that definitely sucks a lot of energy as well. So that's, and the whole health journey. It's now over, but the last 3-4 years has been intense with all that medication, hormones and stuff. And that forced me to start thinking about it. Cause for me, I'm always just like, yeah, how can I get more done? And just like sit on my computer and just be, quote unquote productive. But because of that experience, that's when I started thinking, okay, actually I know if I eat a lot of bread during the week, I don't feel well. It's just, I feel a bit sluggish. I feel a bit heavy. I just don't feel like my best self. If I drink more than 2 cups of coffee a day, I don't feel like my best self. So it's stuff that just being aware of, okay, I can have coffee, but I try to have one every 2 days. So try to alternate 1 coffee, 1 tea in the morning. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I have a week or 2, I'm just like, okay, just give you all the coffee. And same with the green smoothies. I know if I have a green smoothie versus bread and eggs for breakfast in the morning, when I do eat breakfast, I just end up feeling better.
Yeah.
So it's like if I get into a slump of like a phase of, I'm not really excited to talk to my clients, I'm not really excited about anything, I just feel like I want to sleep for a week, that's when I can really look at, okay, have I been doing the green smoothies? Have I been drinking too much coffee? Have I been actually taking good walks with my dog versus just taking him out to pee and do his business?
And again, that is so important. Having that personal checklist of these things really work for me. And sometimes I'll fall off the wagon and, I get busy and things happen and I don't do them. Okay, let's go back to the checklist.
I have a really easy one for this, which works for me. It's how do my nails look? And if they're like broken and a little bit grubby and like not really anything, like bits of old nail polish on there, I'm probably not in a good phase. And I don't go for manicures or anything, but it's just like once a week or something. If you take the 30 seconds to file your nails, that for me is a very like easy reminder of, oh, actually maybe I should take those 30 seconds to file my nails, because I'm on a keyboard all the time. I see them. They're in front of me.
Exactly. So I love that. I love the fact that you've got that signpost. That I look down at my nails, and if they're not looking great, I'm not looking after myself. So that's the drawing board. No,
because like I like painting my nails because like I said, I'm on a keyboard half the day. If I see a bright color, it just makes me happier.
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? Right. Second question then. I'm really interested in your routine then. So I want to know what time do you start work? Are you a morning person or evening person?
Definitely more morning, but it's also because I have a husband who does work a 9 to 5. I think if I had my own flexibility, I would probably start work a bit later, and I would definitely have a sprint in the evening, because around like 7-ish, I know I have like creative energy where I could work. I normally don't. I don't have a great routine. Like I really like flexibility. That's something I'm still working on, to add more structure to my day to day without feeling tied down. That's really important to me. I think I'm a bit of a rebel at heart with that I like flexibility. I know I need the structure, but I want to kind of do my own thing within that structure. This is kind of how I approach strategy in business as well, by the way, for my clients. Like, let's build a framework, but then you can do whatever feels good within that. So yeah, I'm up at 8, again, because of my husband. His alarm goes off, so it's kind of when I'm up and dragging my sorry butt out of bed. I normally am at my computer around 9:15, so I take some time, like I walk my dog, I'm cleaning up around the house a little bit because I work from home. I really like going to cafes a few times a week if I can. And then I try to be there. If I do go to a cafe, I take my dog to the park nearby so he can run around like a maniac, and then he's okay for me sitting for 3 hours in a cafe and he can just sit in.
Will your dog sit there for 3 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely, but he's been trained. Like we got him when he was 9 weeks old, and since he was a puppy, he's been going to cafes with me, and he knows he normally gets a treat there. He always gets petted by like everyone who passes him by. So yeah, I actually aim to take 2 hours off for lunch because my client work or admin always runs a bit over into my lunch break anyway. By the time like I actually make lunch and sit down to eat it, I want to read my book. I want to take my dog out for like a nice walk. I think for me to be my most productive self, I do need like a good 2 hours to just have that mental break. My work is very mentally intense.
Yeah.
We talked about this earlier, like I'm very hands-on with my clients. I really like supporting them. And that takes a lot of mental energy. And I think I'm saying this because I almost feel like I have to justify the fact that I take such a long lunch break, which I shouldn't, but that's...
Yeah, you don't need to.
It's just what works for me. And that 2 o'clock is when my afternoon starts. That's when my client calls start normally. I try to do more client calls in the afternoons because, again, like with my energy, that just feels better that I have someone to interact with. I can't really do like writing tasks in the afternoons. It's just, I'm tired. It's after lunch. I don't feel like it. I write really well in the morning. I do really great conversations. My mastermind calls, everything, that's always after 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Now, we also talked about emails and things. You don't touch your inbox anymore, do you?
I do touch my inbox. I'm still there, but I finally delegated it to my OBM, my online business manager, Caroline, who's amazing. And she does a lot more for me now. So I still reply to things that need my attention, like client emails, or if someone needs me to, I don't know, they want to quote me for an article or something, and that's the stuff I deal with. But we're really getting conscious of what is the stuff that Maggie doesn't need to do personally.
Yes.
All that stuff eventually should be stuff I'm not doing.
Definitely. Yeah, I am so on board with that. Take a really good look at what where your time should be spent. Where's your superpower? What should you actually be doing that's adding value? Everything else, delegate, outsource, or bin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my mantra for the last 2 years. Like last year, I worked far fewer hours than I ever have before, and I made a lot more money. And I ran 3 international live events. I launched my mastermind. I also did like the impact stuff, the stuff that I was really excited about launching. Mm-hmm. So not just the financial side, but also just the personal side. I'm thrilled with how things have gone. And I worked far fewer hours because I was just like, I don't have time for this. I don't have the energy for this. Mm-hmm. We're either going to stop doing it or someone else is going to do it.
Yes. Yeah, love it. Right, Maggie, last question then, because we've been chatting for ages, haven't we? I don't even know what time it is. It's probably getting on for your lunch break now, isn't it?
No, it's all good.
Yeah, 11:30 or something for you?
Yeah, it's 11:20.
Right, so last question that I ask absolutely everybody. Can you recommend one book that has been significant for you, that's really, you can really understand the benefit and that you want to recommend to everybody else?
Can I recommend more than one?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay. So the first was definitely Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I read it as I was recovering from burnout, and that completely changed my perspective on my business. And it wasn't necessarily from the actual point of the book, which is about having a why and a reason, like, that Apple doesn't sell computers, but they sell a certain lifestyle or, whatever. But it helped me connect the 2 parts of my brain, the strategic, logical, things need to make sense part of me, and then the excited, emotional, things need to feel good, which is something I've definitely not really tapped into as much as I should have, but I'm starting to tap into more now. And yeah, like I said, like I'm working far fewer hours and things are going well. So highly recommend that. The second book I recommend is How to Fascinate by Sally Hogshead.
Ooh, I've heard of that one.
It's a good one. So there's a quiz. If you just Google how to fascinate, there's a quiz there. And it's basically a brand archetype personality test on how the world views you. So you have brand archetypes about, how you're about yourself, but this is how do people see you? And this has been so pivotal in my branding and positioning and messaging. We've not actually mentioned this, but my whole brand is built on fantasy and magic and Harry Potter-esque things. And part of that has been due to this quiz and this book of realizing that of how can I make myself stand out. And if you're an entrepreneur or if you're in the corporate world, people still need to connect you with certain things. They need to remember you for a reason, and hopefully for good reasons. And how to fascinate is, it also helps with things like pricing, or with your marketing plan, or with what should you actually focus on next, because it really helps you connect a lot of dots there.
Right. I've not heard of that. I'm going to scribble that down after we've chatted, and I'm going to get that and have a read. It sounds amazing.
She's got a really great story about how she helped promote Jägermeister in a huge conference. Very funny. Very good.
We'll check that out. And we'll throw in Chillpreneur as well, because we've talked about that today, and we both love that. So that's definitely one to
yes. It's such a great read, and it feels just so on point and on time for this whole conversation about how can you make things easy while trying, still hitting your business goals, still wanting to make more money, but how can you just be more in the flow of things?
Yes, love it, which ties nicely with all of our conversation. Thanks so much, Maggie. I loved chatting to you. I loved hearing about your journey, and there's just been so many takeaways there. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. So glad to be here.